In this video, you're going to get introduced to modules and file exports. So you're going to use those to be able to exchange variables and functions or methods between different JavaScript files. So I've created a folder file exports inside the node folder. So let's move to that folder inside our terminal. So I'm going to go up one directory. So this is where we are. And then I'm going to go to file exports. All right. So now I'm going to create a new file and call it app.js. And then I'm going to create another or a new folder and call it lib4library. So basically inside our library, we're going to have some JavaScript files with some variables and functions which we need inside app.js. So first, let's get introduced to the module variable. So if you console.log module, let's see what we get. By the way, you can do this in any JavaScript file. So I'm going to run node app.js, and here is our module objects. So what you are interested in is the exports property, which will show you all the variables and functions which you exported from other files to this file. So at the moment it's empty. All right, so let's say that we want to use a function greeting which is not defined inside this file. So it's going to be inside a file located in the library. So let's create a new file inside the library and call it greeting.js. So inside this file, we're going to create a function which we will export to app.js. So in this example, we're going to export one function. So what you can do, you can access the module objects inside this file and then type exports and set that to one function because you want to export only one function. So let's say that our function is going to console.log hello. All right. So now if we go to app.js, we need to add another line to say that we're going to be importing the function exported from greeting.js. And we're going to call it greeting. So the syntax we need to use here is going to be require followed by the location of the file greeting.js. So we're going to place everything inside quotes. So we're starting from the current location, and then we're going to the library folder, and then greeting.js. All right. So now let's try this. So if we run the node command, we can see hello, meaning that this function is working. And let's have a look at our module variable. So there are no exports here because we're not exporting anything from app.js. But if you run this on greeting.js and you console.log the module, variable, then this time you will see that we've got something inside the exports. You've got a function. Perfect. Basically, we are exporting an anonymous function, and that's why you see that. If you call this function something like greet then this will change. So let's have a look. So you can see it's a function and it's called greet. All right, perfect. So now let's create another example. So we're going to create another file inside the library, and we're going to call it school.js. So inside this file, we're going to have another object or function, which we will export to app.js. So this time we're going to go straight away to the module variable, the exports property, and we're going to add things manually. So this is where we are at the moment. All right. So we're just going to add, for example, an average function, which will just calculate the average of grades which can be found inside an array. So we give it an array, and then it will calculate the average for us and return it. So basically what we need to do, we're going to create a variable sum, which is initiated to 0. And then for each element of the array, we're going to add the value of the variable or the element to the sum variable, like that. Quite easy. Okay, and then we're going to return the sum divided by the number of grades, which is going to be the length of the array. Okay, so let's try this. Now we're exporting this from school.js to app.js. So we need to add another line to app.js, right? So let's call it average. And again, we're going to use require. And we're going to need the location of our file school.js, which is going to be libschool.js. Now, the difference between that and that is that in that case, we are exporting a function from greeting.js like that. And we're setting the whole exports property of the module variable to that function. Now, in this scenario, things are slightly different. We are just appending average to exports. So basically, you still need to say that you require that file dot average, and this will import the average function successfully for you. So what you can do, you can try that console.log average of these grades. So for example, let's say that we've got 70, 55, 90, and 100. And let's see what we get. All right, so we're getting 78.75. So let's try something else. So let's try $89.144, for example. Oh. Okay, just to show you what happens. Okay, so now we're getting this number, and let's say that you would like to show only 2 digits after the decimal, so you can just add to fixed and pass to the method. All right, so let's try again. And here we go. So that's how you attach a function to the exports property of the module object. Now let's add something else. So this time I'm going to add an object, grades, for example. And let's say that it's got a best property and an average property. Okay. So let's check the module variable and see what we've got. So in the exports, you can see that we've got a function and a grades object. All right, so now let's go to the app.js file and let's access the object that we have just exported. So let's log it. So again, to access it, we're going to require the same file. And then since we attached grades to the exports property, then we can just access it like that. So let's run app.js. And here we go. That's our grades object. So hopefully you've got now a good understanding of how to export objects and functions or methods between different JavaScript files. So in the next video, you're going to start looking at built-in modules in Node.js, and you're going to start with the HTTP module.